Good afternoon. My name is Michael Jones. This is a presentation on business continuity for Rick Lineker's Security 110 class. Emergency management, planning business continuity. Business continuity can be defined as the ability of an organization to maintain its operations and services in the face of a disruptive event. This event could be as basic as an electrical outage or as catastrophic as a Category 5 hurricane. A few definitions to get started. What is a disaster? The cake I was baking to bring to the Christmas dinner. He lost his laptop with the only copy of his thesis. She lost her research and papers in the lab fire. Payroll systems failed the day before payday. Asbestos released into dorm renovation. The death of a student. The Northeast blackout. The recent tsunami. Which one of these would be defined as a disaster? Well, a disaster is an event often unexpected that seriously disrupts your usual operations or processes and can have a long-term impact on your normal way of life or that of your organization. A few definitions we'll go through to get us started. The first one is RTO, Recovery Time Objective. And that is the point in time when you must have at least the critical aspects of your business operational again. RPO, Recovery Point Objective, and this is the last copy of your data that is out of harm's way. Hopefully it is the most recent. So basically this is your data backups that you should perform regularly. So in business continuity planning, it's not rocket science. It is a process to minimize the impact of a major disruption to normal operations. It's a process to enable restoration of critical assets, and it's a process to restore normalcy as soon as possible after a crisis. It's not just recovery of information technology resources. And it's the phase of crisis management that follows the immediate actions taken to protect life and property and contain the event. It begins when the situation has been stabilized. And it now is a national standard for both the public and the private sectors. Here you can see the NFPA 1600 standard for disaster emergency management and business continuity programs. This is the 2004 edition, the first edition that it came out. It's published by FEMA, and it kind of gives you a disaster risk assessment, and we'll see some of that in the later slides. An ALCAR report in March of this year from Baylor Medical Center and the University of Houston in the aftermath of Hurricane Allison posed the following list of questions to ask to determine your resilience to a disaster. In an emergency, how will the institutional leaders communicate with each other? What are the protocols and procedures, and how will they find an up-to-date contact list? Where should they convene? Initial and backup locations. Which business processes are considered critical with respect to what needs to be restored? How can we manage incidents in a way to minimize risk to current operations, future enrollment, and donor support? What would happen if systems that control security and alarms? What are the consequences of environmental pollutants? Complete or partial destruction of key buildings, and long-term inaccessibility to communication systems. These are all things we must look at when developing a disaster recovery plan. So the answers to these questions will constitute your business continuity plan. Here's a risk matrix, and basically you set a severity level to each one of your business processes, and you play out potential disasters or issues that can impact these processes, and you rank them on a scale of low to high and a scale of probability low to high. And then you come into this matrix right here. So here's a pie chart for network operation disruptions, and it shows that two of the most major natural disasters that can impact network operations is flood and hurricane, and the two most man-made disasters are power failure and hardware failure. Here's the Presidential Disaster Declaration. This is a report that's put out by FEMA that shows the probability of a disaster happening in the United States. The darker the color, the more probable of a disaster. And this is based on historical data from January 1st, 1965 to December 31st, 1998. And if you look, one of the biggest issues here is flooding. A majority of natural disasters involve water. So definitely keep that in consideration when you're developing your disaster recovery plan. Here we're looking at just FEMA Region 1, and you can see over half of the disasters in the Northeast has been due to flood. New threats arise every day. The threats that we were at risk at 20 years ago are not the same threats of today. Some of you may remember Mount St. Helens erupting in 1980 and the ash clouds that preceded that. Today it's different though. Like in this picture you can see the World Trade Centers in New York. Today we have to worry about terrorist attacks. But still, we have the usual concerns. We still have to deal with flooding, and here's a picture of the Houston Law Library after Tropical Storm Allison. So when is it a crisis? That's something you have to determine for yourself. Is it minutes? Is it hours? Is it days? Is it weeks? You have to develop a crisis timeline. And here is a crisis timeline. So in this example, there's a data center fire. Activate the Emergency Operations Center. IT's decision to move to a backup facility. You have to assemble your IT recovery team at appropriate sites. Obtain backup tapes from off-premises storage. Acquire and install backup hardware and network connections. Restore operating system and network. Reload database and other data, restore critical applications, and begin critical processing. This is your recovery time objective. So do you measure this RTO in weeks, hours, or minutes? When do you need to start to reach it on time? The windows are closing. Increasing dependencies on electronic capabilities to do your job have shortened the recovery time frame. So every day we're more and more reliant on our technical expertise and our electronic capabilities, that sometimes disaster recovery planning is something we don't put much time or effort into. And this often leads to a disconnect between users' expectations and the organization's ability to meet them. And here's a high-level look at a recovery effort. So you can see on the left side of the screen the disaster happens and the notifications go out. And there's three main pieces of business that has to be restored, and that's going to be your technologically capabilities, your communications, and your critical business functions. And then all that's got to be put back together seamlessly as we work left to right. So then you'll resume your business and you'll make a decision to move to an alternate site or return home once the corrective actions has been taken, where you can resume normal operations in your home office. So when building a continuity plan, there's things that steps you take in the development process, and one of the first things is you got to understand what you need, understand what your needs are. Define the risk to the data loss contingency, and define the level of criticality. Here we look at our criticality levels. Category 1, you must be up in hours. Category 2, you must be up in days. Category 3, you must be up in weeks. And Category 4 can wait till operations are normal again. So, Category 1, an example of that could be your communication lines, your network and phone systems, and Category 4 could be your personnel files. Give an individual responsibility and authority for overall planning. So businesses should have a team with a team leader that develops this disaster recovery plan. Ensure the organizational units, accounting, facilities, residential laboratories understand their individual responsibility for the recovery of their operations. Data loss contingencies develop their farm. The business continuity planning team consists of the farm team coordinators. Document the plan. So once you have a recovery team put together, we have processes identified, we need to document that plan. Here's the table of contents from a TLO farm team plan. Contact lists. You need to make sure that they're up to date. Resources needed, not just your computing resources, but you need to identify all the resources that are needed. That may be servers, computers, cables, power supplies, desks, racks, HVAC systems, cooling systems, plumbing. The list goes on and on. Emergency procedures. You need to document your emergency procedures, and even more importantly, you need to practice them. Use a common template or framework. Plan review by business continuity management team and information systems and technology. So just don't develop a disaster recovery plan without getting active participation between the critical teams. Test, test, test. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.